So UFC 311's main event between Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan is just around the corner. Man, am I excited for this matchup, guys. I'm absolutely excited for this matchup, and better yet, it's the very first pay-per-view headliner of 2025, and I think it is one of the most intriguing stylistic matchups in the entire UFC right now. However, I believe that Islam Makhachev is going to finish Arman Tsarukyan at UFC 311. Now, I want to discuss this matchup and break this down a little bit, but ultimately, I think it's a little bit more simple than what people are kind of making it out to be, and that is the fact that Islam is just better. Islam Makhachev is just a better mixed martial artist, in my opinion. I believe that his striking, I believe that his grappling, and the way that he blends everything together is a world of problems for anyone inside of the lightweight division. But if there is anybody that could go in there, negate the weapons of Islam Makhachev, and go in there and find a way to get to him and finish him, or just beat him by decision, it is going to be a guy like Arman Tsarukyan. And I remember sitting up here saying, look, guys, if I was going to build a fighter to go in and take out this prime vintage Alexander Volkanovski that's sitting on the back foot, picking people apart, making everybody look like a fool, I'm building a fighter that looks like Ilia Topuria, a guy with dangerous power, good grappling, can basically dictate where the fight takes place while having the necessary tools to go out there and finish the fight. I believe that this is a very similar situation. When you look at Arman Tsarukyan, this guy's dangerous, man. And not only people are just like, oh, he's just a wrestler and he takes people down and yeah, he knocked out old man gray hair Beneil Dariush. I mean, yeah, he did. But have you not seen the vicious ground and pound of Arman Tsarukyan? I mean, if you get taken down by Arman and you cannot get back to your feet, it's like Jaws. It's like the movie Jaws. I don't know how many of you have seen that. When you hear the dun 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 dun, and Arman gets a hold of you and takes you down, man, he's throwing vicious elbows, nasty ground and pound. Like, you cannot stay on the bottom and just allow Arman to control you in terms of the grappling. And another thing that scares me for Islam in this matchup, when I watch the grappling match between Khamzat Chimaev and Arman Tsarukyan, I mean, yeah, Khamzat dominated him, which that's Khamzat Chimaev. He's bigger, he has outstanding speed, he's just a freak athlete, especially when it comes to the wrestling. The submission defense of Arman Tsarukyan is incredibly impressive. So when we sit there and we say, well, Islam's just going to go in there and take him down and sub him, I just don't think that that's the case, because we've seen some outstanding submission defense from Arman Tsarukyan. But what really intrigues me here is whenever we see a fight take place, right? This matchup between the two the first time around took place back in 2019. Islam Makhachev already had some experience in the UFC to where Arman's like, well, give me a shot, man. Give me a shot, UFC. And they kind of insert him on a shorter notice. And he was just chomping at the bit. He goes in there. Islam Makhachev kind of overlooked him a little bit. Arman just kind of just went in there and did his thing. Didn't have a ton of time to prepare. And we saw Islam get pushed, right? We saw Arman Tsarukyan have some success with the grappling, but overall, Islam Makhachev convincingly won the fight. Like, people talk about that fight like, oh, it was Islam's hardest fight, and that was not Islam's hardest fight, right? The hardest fights for Islam were the very first Volkanovski fight, and then probably, the Dustin Poirier matchup. Those were the fights where we had to see Islam dig deep, which I think has absolutely helped him in his career thus far. But to act like, oh, well, Arman Tsarukyan fought tooth and nail with Islam Makhachev in his debut. No, that's not what happened. It's not what happened at all. Just because he had a little success in some moments here and there does not mean that it was a hard fight for Islam Makhachev. But what it does show is there are some elements that Arman can look to attack years down the line here, because whenever we see a rematch take place early in the career of fighters and then they come back down the line to where they have both made tremendous improvements in their skill sets and have went and kind of carved their paths inside the division, it just makes the rematch that much more intriguing to me, which is why, in case you can't tell, I am so fired up for this fight, because I believe that Arman has a skill set that is incredibly troubling for Islam, man. It just is. And if Islam does not come into this taking this serious in terms of the grappling, he's going to find himself in some bad spots, because Arman is incredibly explosive. He has outstanding power on the feet, and he has this I don't give a shit attitude that I think is incredibly dangerous. And I will link a video down below to where I broke down his interview that he did ahead of this fight. And I was going back and forth on this with people. People are like, oh, that's not a warrior mindset. He just doesn't care. He's making excuses. I didn't take it like that. Arman Tsarukyan, he's got a comfortable life. His family does well. He's got plenty of money. He doesn't need that. So why is he doing this? because he's a good athlete, he enjoys fighting, and he has fun. There's not a lot of pressure on him. Who's the pressure on in this fight? It's on Islam Makhachev. It absolutely is. And if Islam loses, he'll never hear the end of it. To where if Arman loses, he wasn't as good as what people were saying. That's literally almost the whole narrative for this fight. So all of the pressure is on Islam, and Arman's like, go ahead, push all that onto him. Don't put it on me. I'm just going to go in there, throw caution to the wind, and do what I do. And to me, that is a very dangerous fighter when they feel like they have nothing to lose coming into a match. Well, I shouldn't say feel like he doesn't have anything to lose because he wants to be champion, but he has this dangerous mindset and attitude that I think is very troubling to Islam Makhachev. But I wanted to address the Dustin Poirier-Islam Makhachev fight because I think that that's one that I don't agree with a lot of the takes on it, right? A lot of people are saying, oh, well, Islam should have just went in there and dominated Dustin Poirier. When I broke down that fight, I sat up there and said, Islam is going to finish Dustin Poirier, but it's not going to be easy, right? Dustin Poirier had basically made it up in his mind, this is probably my last fight. I'm going to walk out to The Boss by James Brown. We're going to mix it in with that Diamond song that was going viral. Come on, man. Like, that vibe of DP heading into that fight, it was going to take a crazy effort to beat that guy. And not to mention, a much improved Dustin Poirier was in that fight than the guy that fought Khabib, because everyone wants to talk about it was a similar matchup. That is a much improved DP. His takedown defense got much better, and he's a guy that was just coming into the fight with like this attitude of, I just haven't been undisputed champion. I've done basically everything else by any means necessary. That was DP's mentality. That's going to be a hard guy to beat. And I would say that Dustin Poirier, he's one of the best strikers in lightweight history, one of the best strikers in UFC history, definitely one of the best boxers, right? That's not an easy matchup for Islam Makhachev, considering Islam also had staff. How many guys do we see that have staff and they go in there and they get their ass beat? Remember what Poirier did to Benoit Saint-Denis? That's usually the excuse, guys lose up staff. Islam Makhachev went in there with that and still was able to outdog, outgrit, outstrike, outwork Dustin Poirier and find a submission later in the fight. What more do you want from the guy? That's an incredible performance to me. Was it as like starstruck, make you as starstruck to where he just goes out there, steamrolls Poirier, and then everyone would have said, oh, that's what he was supposed to do anyway. The guy can't win. If he goes out there and it's a hard fight, they're like, he's not that good. He should have rolled through him. And if he does roll through somebody, they're like, well, that guy wasn't that good or he was past his prime. That's what people would say. That's what people would say. So they look for any avenue to try to critique or discredit Islam Makhachev. That was a very impressive performance. He had to dig deep. He got cut. He got battered. He got bruised. And he was able to find success. And I think with the very first meeting between these two, the biggest improvements I have seen are the striking from Islam Makhachev has improved leaps and bounds since the first time he fought Arman. It absolutely has. And not only that, he is really getting it on the feet. Not only is he just a better striker with better timing, better speed, and putting the weapons together, but the way he set up Alexander Volkanovski, I said this before, that tells me a guy has it on the feet. He's firing on all cylinders. His fight IQ is there in terms of the striking. The way he was throwing that kick low and then brought it upstairs right over the guard of Volkanovski to catch him with a head kick. It was something that they had been working on. They knew that was something they were going to be able to exploit. That is high fight IQ, and we have seen the evolution in the striking of Islam Makhachev, and he always has had outstanding grappling with very good submissions, and I think in this fight, if it comes down to straight grappling, I think Islam's the better grappler. He has more of a submission threat. He's the better grappler, but when it comes to the straight wrestling, that's where things get a little bit different because I believe Arman Tsarukyan is incredibly dangerous when it comes to the overall grappling. He's powerful, he's strong, and he has very, very good technique. And coming into this, I think he knows Islam is a more technical striker, right? Because what we saw with Arman Tsarukyan in his most recent outing against Charles Oliveira, Charles didn't look very good in that fight, right? He just didn't. Let's call it what it is. He kind of was like a moving heavy bag at times. He was stuck in the mud. He just looked like I don't know if he wanted to be there or what the deal was. He was kind of just, he wasn't, no urgency. Charles Oliveira was just kind of coasting through the fight with zero urgency, and people are like, oh, it was a robbery. Oliveira won. How? He didn't do nearly enough to secure a victory, right? He put Arman in some dangerous, positions, was looking for some submissions, but wasn't able to finish them. Like I said, very good submission defense by Arman Tsarukyan. But so that win is a little bit dampened to me. Yes, Arman went out there and controlled Charles Oliveira. Don't you remember what Islam did to Charles? went out there, marched him down, hurt his ass on the feet, and said, I'm not afraid to go to the ground, with you, Charles Oliveira, just like, Gaethje and Poirier were. They could hurt Oliveira. We're afraid to go to the ground with him. Makhachev says, absolutely not. I'm following you to the ground, and submits him. Goes out there and makes it look very easy against Charles Oliveira. So if you want to play the MMA math game, look what Islam did to Oliveira. Look what Arman did to Oliveira. Two totally different, type of matchups there, right? So we've got that. We get that. What I think this comes down to, we've seen Arman Tsarukyan. He's very explosive. He's got dangerous kicks. He's got big power. We saw that against old man, gray-haired Beneil Dariush, who's out there wanting a new Tesla from Elon Musk. We have seen that Beneil Dariush, the fight before, got KO'd by Charles Oliveira. It was a nasty KO, comes back against Arman Tsarukyan. I'm like, what the hell are you doing, Benny? Why are you taking this fight? You want to fight another top contender in the division? Another up-and-coming title challenger in Arman? Why are you going to do that? You just got KO'd. Goes out there, gets brutally finished by Arman Tsarukyan. I mean, that was a violent finish by Arman, but like I said, the power, the explosiveness, and just throwing caution to the wind and being creative in terms of how he's going to, be able to get to somebody, that is what Arman has showed that he is able to do. But what we even saw back at the Joe Alvarez fight for Arman Tsarukyan, vicious ground and pound. He has, in my opinion, better ground and pound than Islam Makhachev, where Arman, not necessarily, he does have some submissions, but he's a guy that looks to brutalize you if he can get on top. So if you're Islam, you have to avoid at all costs ending up on the bottom underneath of Arman because of the vicious ground and pound. And on the feet, Islam's going to have to be careful anytime Arman explodes in the range because Arman has some very good kicks. He's very flexible. He's powerful. And I expect Arman to utilize a lot of kicks in this fight because he has so much power on him, because it is going to be that orthodox southpaw lineup here, between the two fighters. So I think Arman is very, very dangerous. He is, I believe, the hardest challenge stylistically for Islam Makhachev in this division, while I think Islam is the hardest stylistic matchup for Arman in this division, which is what makes this an absolutely spectacular fight. But when you look at the two, this just to me comes down to if Islam Makhachev can keep the fight on the feet, I don't know that he's out there chasing takedowns. I think if anyone's out there chasing takedowns, we're going to see Arman looking to do that because he has good wrestling. He has this confidence and this ability to where if he can get you down, he can really, really make you pay with brutal ground and pound. And if you're looking for a way to get Islam out of there, that is definitely an avenue I think Arman is going to look to explore. But if the takedowns are stuffed, Islam is very good in the clinch at, trips, his sweeps, throws, getting you to the ground and looking for a submission. But one of the things Arman does a great job of is when he tries to work back to his feet. He knows these Sambo guys that, chain the submissions and the wrestling very well together. He just doesn't turtle up and give you, his back and try to eventually work back to the feet because you could find a rear naked choke or create a scramble and look for a submission. Where Arman, he knows, to try to find a safer route to get back to the feet. So those kind of little things with the grappling, those mistakes, those aren't mistakes that Arman makes in the grappling. So to say that Islam is going to finish Arman by a submission, I don't think is that likely. I think that would happen by Islam landing a good shot on the feet, hurting him, and then finding submission that way. But I believe the striking of Islam Makhachev, the speed, the timing, and the evolution that we have seen in terms of his striking is going to be the difference in this fight because I believe that Makhachev can dictate where this fight goes. And I think, don't be fooled. Even though Makhachev's been out there, he's been putting on some impressive striking displays. He's in there in a dogfight with Poirier. He's out there against Volkanovski mixing it up. This guy probably got back to his roots for this fight. I know, Team Khabib, they're always working on the grappling. They're very good with their game plans. Javier Mendez has done an outstanding job with the striking and coaching up Islam Makhachev. I believe that they focus more on the grappling in this fight because they know if Arman takes them down, it's not just, Arman's going to take me down like Mateusz Gamrot and just hold me down and this and that. And I'm saying because Gamrot, if he takes you down, what's there to worry about? He's just going to, hold you and you work back to your feet, you get tired. Where Arman, he will brutalize you with some nasty ground and pound. But I believe Islam Makhachev is the better overall fighter. That's what this comes down to me. He is a world champion for a reason. He has been unbelievable ever since he got, knocked out by Martins back in the day. He has been absolutely spectacular. Brutal, nasty submissions, brutal KO power if he is able to set up a shot and land it. I think the striking, the timing, and the game planning of Team Khabib coming into this fight is going to be slicker and better than what Arman will have coming into this fight. And I just think that it is a matchup of Arman is explosive and dangerous, while Islam Makhachev is the better overall mixed martial artist that is patient, technical, and will wait for those windows of opportunity and be patient to find a finish or just outstrike and outpoint Arman Tsarukyan in this matchup. But I think either way, a very intriguing matchup. I think this fight is close, but I do think Islam Makhachev is able to find a finish in this matchup. I think whether it's a high kick that he sets up, a good left hand down the middle to where maybe he can set up a submission off of rocking Arman Tsarukyan, because I think that's the only way you can sub Arman is if you hurt him on the feet. I believe Islam finds a finish inside 4 rounds in this matchup against Arman. But if Arman is going to win this fight, I could see him, if he's going to win this fight, he's going to have to try to get Islam out of there, because over the course of 5 rounds, I don't think that you will win a decision against Islam Makhachev, given how good he is in all aspects of mixed martial arts. This is an outstanding matchup from top to bottom. Can't wait for it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Comment who you think is going to win down below. And if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you do not miss an upload. I would appreciate it. See you next time.